breaking news at this hour, and in the last few minutes, the government has been defeated on a vote at the Labour Party conference on its decision to end the winter fuel payment for some pensioners. The General Secretary of the Unite Union, Sharon Graham, introduced the motion on the final morning of conference in Liverpool.
They promised homes and they built a national health service on the back of crisis. There wasn't a story of tightening belts or making some of the poorest in our society pay. Friends, people simply do not understand. I do not understand how our new Labour government can cut the winter fuel allowance for pensioners and leave the super rich untouched. This is not what people voted for. It's the wrong decision and it needs to be reversed.
All right, let's go to conference and bring in our political correspondent, Tamara Cohen. So, Tamara, afternoon to you. Look, we heard the anger there of Sharon Graham, and this vote was won narrowly by the unions.
Yes, that's right. The unions have been very angry about this decision to means test winter fuel payments and basically remove them from millions of pensioners this winter, which they feel is the wrong decision. And Sharon Graham has made clear in her speech and in the motion that the delegates voted on that she thinks that it should be the wealthiest in society who are forced to pay more in tax in order to find more money. She says this won't make the savings that Labour claims. Now, the Hall were very enthusiastic in support of her. There were lots of cheering, lots of chanting, and they carried that motion, but it doesn't make a difference. It's not binding. These cuts are still going ahead. It's just a signal to Keir Starmer. Unite Union, who put this forward, they've got 1 million members. They say it's a sign of how people feel outside the Hall, how the public feel about it. I think the opinion polls suggest that the public are actually a bit more split than that, and also Labour are very aware that as we get towards the budget at the end of October, there will be tough decisions involving other groups of people as well. Keir Starmer was very clear about that in his speech yesterday, so perhaps when it's other groups of people who are having to pay more or cut back, people will see this in a different light. But certainly it's a sign that certainly on the Labour left and among many of those who've come to Liverpool, it is a difficult pill to swallow. This was not something people were told about before the election. Rachel Reeves announced it when they came in July, and look, Keir Starmer talked about difficult decisions in order to pay for the things that Labour want to do, whether that's on the NHS or other things involving public services. And so, look, it's a sign of the strength of feeling and a sign of the sort of challenges he's going to get along the way. But it's still happening, and it's got through Parliament because Labour have a massive majority to do these things. But that doesn't mean that they aren't going to be painful for many in the Labour movement.
Absolutely right. OK, and Tamara, we found out a little bit more this morning, didn't we, about some of those donations that the Prime Minister has accepted?
That's right. So this whole conference was overshadowed in the few days before it by rows about donations, namely the Prime Minister and senior members of his cabinet revealing that they hadn't broken any rules, but they had taken donations to buy clothes, to buy glasses, to go on holiday in New York. That was Angela Rayner, the deputy leader, and it left a bit of a sour taste for many here. It felt to be a bad look, given that Labour were asking other people to tighten their belts. And it's meant a look at how these donations are working across the board. Now, Keir Starmer declared one donation from the Labour peer Lord Ali, who made his money in television and has donated to a lot of senior Labour figures. He declared £20,000 for accommodation between the end of May and mid-July of this year. And this morning on BBC Radio, he was asked about that, and he mounted quite a robust defence of it, saying the reason was because he needed somewhere for his teenage son, who was doing his GCSEs. Obviously, Labour weren't aware of when the election was going to be called. That was Rishi Sunak's decision. But for him, having had that election called, to get away from journalists and the whole kind of circus in order to have a calm place to study for his GCSEs. And so he said that was the reason that he took accommodation where his family could stay. I think the feeling among many Labour MPs here is that there are individual things that they will be happy to defend, probably including this. They can all understand the reason for it, but that as a whole, taking clothes, taking other freebies is a very difficult thing to defend, and they're not sure that the party have handled it as well as they could have done. And I think, it's not just the Cabinet who get asked about these things. Labour MPs have to go on their local radio and speak to their local papers, having to defend these donations. And I think while many of them would not begrudge Keir Starmer doing that for his family, I think there is a feeling that the government need to look again at the sort of money they're taking from donors and what it's spent on.
OK, tomorrow for now at conference. Thank you for that.